everybody. Welcome in. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Conversations with Christy. I'm super excited. We have Captain Calhoun with us today to talk about self care. How are you doing?
Thank you.
Can you hear me? Thanks. Can you hear me? Hi, Sandy Randy. Hi, Davey. I'm going to go ahead and talk while Spanx checks his volume. Carol, hello. Can
Hey,
you
how
guys
are
hear
you?
me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, Spanx, can you hear
I've been
me?
live this whole time and nobody told me.
Yeah, you've been
It's all
live.
my fault.
I was
Oh
hollering at you.
gosh. What a day,
It,
guys.
it's
Can't hear
okay.
you, so hold on.
It's okay. Awesome. Great. Well, thank you both for being here with me for
Restream is just a little different.
yeah, Restream. It's a whole thing. Like I'm super thankful for help with it.
All right, it looks like I'm good. I wonder how long
Are
I was
you?
sitting here. I wonder if I said
No,
anything silly.
you didn't say anything silly. You were typing along. You were just like focused. So you're good.
I was talking to
You're good.
Izzy. I was catching up with
Ah,
Izzy. She's doing well.
good. 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 All right. Oh, like you gotta make me jealous. Shake out the long hair. There we
I
go.
just don't want you to see my crappy sides, you know?
Ah, all right. Well, I thank you both so much for being here today. We're going to be talking about self care, and I am super excited about this because it is such an important thing. And I know Carol was like, yeah, I don't know what I bring to this conversation, but I think everybody can bring something to the conversation. I was doing a little meditation and a little thought before I hopped on, and as I was gluing on my eyelashes, because that's when life happens to me, right? Is I glue on my eyelashes. Oh, Tara's here. Hello, Tara. Stasia, if you could bring on our special guest, Tara, that would be awesome.
I need to,
Hello.
I need to pop out for a second.
Okay.
Yeah, my husband's calling. Sorry, I didn't
No,
tell him I
no,
was
no.
doing
Go.
this. Okay,
No. Go do what you got to do. Come
okay,
back if you can.
okay.
So we are. Where'd Spanx go?
Oh no, we lost space.
I'm here.
Ah, there you are.
I
Okay.
exist.
All right.
I'm real, I swear.
Um, so we're talking today about self-care and how important that really is to ourselves and because without good self-care, like our mental health really deteriorates. And um, when I was getting ready, I did a little meditation and then I was gluing on my eyelashes. And that's kind of when I have epiphanies, right? So just know going forward, if I have some great pearl of wisdom, I was either gluing on my eyelashes or, like cleaning. um, but, you know, I talk a lot about one particular little brief window in my life because that was when I was the most unhealthy. I was in the most unhealthy situation. I physically was the most unhealthy. And I kind of refer back to that a lot. But one thing that I don't really share is that I have forgiven that situation, that person, and myself for all of the things that happened in it. When I was not allowed to have self-care and I didn't prioritize myself, my mental health went way down. I became it might be too early in the video to say this, but I'm not monetized, so it's okay. I became suicidal. My anorexia like really took over. I weighed 89 pounds. I couldn't think straight. Like everybody around me suffered. And it was all situational. And I do think that, things like that can be situational, but there was zero self-care there. I wasn't supported in having self-care, and I wasn't encouraged to do it, and I didn't know how to do it. And I had 3 little kids at home, and 2 of them are 14 months apart, and then my oldest is 6 years older than my middle daughter. So it was very difficult for me. And, a lot of times when I talk about that, I talk about the trauma around the different types of toxicity that existed in that relationship. But I don't talk about the lack of self-care, because that's a big part of what got me to where I was. And part of my self-care for me looked like forgiving that person, forgiving myself, forgiving the situation. And that kind of put me in a better headspace. And I just wanted to share that, because any of you who have been following me have heard me talk a lot about that, but you've not ever heard me say that part. To this day, I wish him well. And toward the end of the year, when my middle daughter has her wedding reception, we're going to be there. And if the camera person is like, "Hey, I want a picture of the 2 of you together," you know what? I'm going to put my arm around him, throw up the rocking horns, and like, we're going to have that picture, right? I wouldn't have gotten there if it wasn't for self-care, and of course, a lot of therapy and understanding and everything like that. So I want to say that self-care isn't just about getting enough sleep. It's not just about, not having caffeine or stretching or all of those other things. Forgiveness can be a really big part of self-care as well. And I just kind of wanted to share that. I don't know if somebody out there needed to hear it, but
Probably me.
Tara's like right here. But that was a really, because I was going through, and it was all of the normal things that you hear, you see, you read, and then that just kind of came to me, and I was like, you know what? I wouldn't be where I was today if I hadn't forgiven myself, and ultimately if I hadn't forgiven him. Now, I'm not saying every situation is forgivable, and we're not. We'll have to do a separate chat on forgiveness. But for me, that was the biggest thing, to get me out of where I was. And I wanted to kind of start off with that. I don't like to talk a lot about myself, but I wanted to start off with that and kind of lead in. I've got some things that I made notes of, and we'll go over real quick, and then we can kind of chat. But some of the things: one, be mindful. Be mindful of your time, be mindful of who you're around, who you're spending your time with, and yourself. Be intentional. Be intentional in what you're doing. Like, if you have the intention to, you know, go do something to make time for yourself, stick with that. Set that intention, because I think intention is a huge thing in life. And when we can be intentional, it makes us be mindful, and it really, gives us that permission, because we've made it a priority for ourselves. Make sure we rest. 1 in 3 people don't get enough rest. This one was interesting to me. Declutter. Clutter can actually cause you to be anxious. It can cause you to have anxiety. I'm not preaching it anybody that is spaces. Trust me, y'all, if you see my bathroom, you'd be like, right. Preach, sister. But decluttering can actually take down that anxiety level, take down some of that stress that's in you, that can cause you to not make time for yourself, because you're like, oh, I need to do this, or I need to do that. Get into a routine. When you have a routine, it helps you to make time, plan a time for you to just sit and meditate or stretch, do yoga, whatever, anything like that. Learn to say no. And this is, we always say this, but no is not a limiting word. I was taught no was a limiting word. And I encourage everybody to reframe how they see the word no. Take care of yourself physically. If you've got any appointments that you need to make them. Part of self.
What is up with my connection? Oh, it's not me this time.
I don't think it's you, Spanx. I think Christy froze up a little bit. I was on the edge of my seat waiting to hear what she was going to say.
Yeah, me too. I feel like there must be something in the air. Everyone's internet.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank God mine's good. Mine's
Yeah,
good.
you seem to be the only one.
Please hold.
I guess Plant Freak's good too.
Frank's comment. I'm not sure exactly what's happening with her connection, but you guys can converse as much as you would like.
Oh, we shall. We shall converse.
And I will pop away again.
You don't have to. What's your experience with self-care, Tara?
Great question. That's a great question, Spanx. So I think, well, I just did a restorative yoga class today, and that was really, really enjoyable. I thought I was going to do a strength training class, but I had this little tweak in my back. I'm not
You
quite
gotta be
sure.
careful.
I know. Well, I love strength training, but a little while ago, a couple of days ago, my back started doing this thing. And I did a pretty intense yoga class 2 days ago, and
Mhm.
it didn't make my back feel better. It made it feel, Carol,
Hey.
hey, we lost Christy. She froze up. And so
Oh.
I was telling Spanx that I took a restorative yoga class. He asked about my self-care. So I took a restorative yoga class this morning instead of strength training. And I think that's a form of self-care, because I was just telling Spanx and everyone here that I tweaked out my back a few days ago, and it doesn't hurt bad.
Yeah.
It's just like when I bend in a certain position, it's like a muscle or something
Yeah.
that just doesn't feel quite right. And so I was like, you know what? I was going to do strength training today, but I think a restorative class would probably be more kind to myself.
Yeah, and it
And-
might actually help heal your back too.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think it did help, and it gave me a little bit of a pep in my step.
Pep in my step.
Yeah.
It's the only back you got. You got to take care of it.
I know. And thank God I have a good back. I just haven't been, I'll be honest, I'll tell on myself here. I have not been keeping up on my physical activity as much. I've been very, very focused in other areas.
Yeah.
And it's my mistake for letting my exercise routine fall to the wayside. So that's an example of how I took care of myself today. And I
Right
think it
on.
was a
Good
good
deal.
choice.
Sweet.
Yeah.
I'm glad to hear it.
Thank you.
Yeah. Something you said was thought-provoking, and my brain is just not good today. So it's gone.
maybe you'll think of it in a little bit.
Maybe I will.
Well, Carol, what's a hack you have for self-care?
I'm here. I don't even know. What is self-care? Please help me.
I love your honesty. Radical honesty.
I mean, I'm like, you want me to what? When she asked me to come on for this, I'm like, I'm more of a candidate for like an overhaul or something, a makeover. I guess the only thing that really comes to mind, because I'm just so needing it, is getting out into nature, like in a new spot of nature. And I don't get to do it as much since I have a farm. You have a farm and you have a YouTube channel, and yeah, self-care just kind of takes the usual back seat. It's just another excuse for it to take a back seat.
It's unfortunate.
Well, I mean, but I've been functioning this way for years.
And so many do on a regular basis. I think that it's difficult to integrate self-care with the way that the state of the world is today in order to make it, you know what I mean? In order to survive and take care of my family and do what I need to. It's quite a lot goes into that, especially like you said, you own a farm, and there's a lot of work to be done. So I get it. I totally get it. If only we could all fit the self-care in, I think our lives would be very enriched.
Yeah.
But it's easier said than done.
Yeah.
Easier said than done. I've been spending years working on integrating it properly, and it's still not really where it needs to be. But I mean, I'm leaps and bounds beyond where I was.
Good. That's amazing. That's great. That'll be a good
Mercury
part of
retrograde, y'all.
recovery.
That's right. That's right.
That's what they say. At least that's what I hear.
Isn't it
Oh, it's
almost
terrible.
over? Isn't today the last day?
Today is the last day.
Yeah.
Someone needs to
Today
get
is the
Mercury
last
on the
day. And then
phone.
we have a shadow period, but today is the last day, you guys. This has been brutal. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. So glad y'all carried on. Way to
we
soldier
got
on.
It would have been really awkward if we would have just sat here in silence and waited for you.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I could have. I would have started singing for sure.
And I was just going on, and I had like really good points, and then everyone's
We were on
like,
the edge
"It's
of our
not
seat.
me," and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh no."
Yeah, you were in the middle of a really great point, and I was like, "Oh yeah, this is good. This is good." And then it was like, then you froze, and then you disappeared.
Awesome. Well, I was talking about being aligned. Speaking of Mercury retrograde, being aligned. Okay, hold on. I'm going to do this. I am going to attempt to make this full screen. All right. And I now cannot see the comments, so I'm going to need somebody to read them to me. You guys, my phone is actually the best way for me to do this as opposed to my laptop, but my phone is old enough that I need a new one, and I've got to get a new one soon. So
can you not see chat, or you can't see the comments that are posted on the screen?
Yeah,
I can't see.
Ones.
I can't see any of it when I'm small on my screen. Everything else clutters it up, so like y'all's faces are covered, and I can't see it because of my phone. So I'm just gonna go this way, and when one of you is talking, I'll get on my laptop and pull up Restream so I can look at the comments. I need to get a really good travel studio. That's what I'm working on next.
Me too. I feel like a tablet, a good portable microphone, and then some way to handle ambient noise properly. I don't. That's the part I can't figure out yet, but I'm working on it myself. So I'll let you know what I find.
Yeah, and then when you all figure it out, I want to know, because I want to go back on the road eventually too. Yeah. So I'll be taking notes from y'all.
Trying to take.
We'll share the information. So back to what I was saying before was taking care of yourself physically, and routine, environment, and be aligned with where you are, where you want to go, and what you want to be. So when you kind of have this idea of who you want to be in life and where you want to go, you can plan your self-care around that. So if you want to be a more spiritual person, bring in yoga, bring in getting out into nature, bring in meditation. Maybe how you can do some self-care is playing guitar, or going to the gym. Help that to align where you are, because it's also going to bring in that energy. It's going to call in that energy of what you want to be. So if you want to be a more spiritual person, or somebody who gets out in nature, takes more walks, or goes running, you want to be a runner, start doing those things. It will bring in that energy, and it will help you to, that becomes part of your self-care routine. We talked about declutter, right?
Yes, we did.
And here's another one. And I thought this was really interesting. No, hey, you guys, if you see my bathroom, you would be like, talk to us about declutter.
No judgment at all. I just chuckle because I used to have a bunch of clutter in my environment, but then after I moved into my car, it really forced me. And that was part of my motivation to move into my car, was to figure out what I needed and to get organized, like super organized. And anyways, so I chuckle when I hear people who are kind of struggling with clutter. Not that I think it's funny, but just I've been through that myself.
Oh yeah.
And now I'm way more organized, and I'm kind of a minimalist in a sense, because I remember what it's like, and I don't want to. It's easier to keep everything organized when there's less around.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And, and living on the road, like y'all, my whole life fits into 2 suitcases. I've got one suitcase for my clothes, and I have another suit. It's a carry-on bag. It's a legit big carry-on with the rollers bag for my makeup.
That's
But that's
impressive.
it. And then my guitar. But my whole life can be packed up in 30 minutes. And
nice.
so it is. But it's also, it's less stressful. And when I buy something new, so like I went and bought a bunch of really cute t-shirts, I have to get rid of a few other things because it still all has to fit in that one suitcase. Like there's no room for fudging it, especially with the dogs and their crates and everything. But even and just decluttering one little, like, start with your purse or one room or one little corner. You don't have to do it all at once. Just start with the thing that is most frustrating, annoying. One thing that I read was decluttering your bedroom is a really important thing because that's supposed to be the place where you get your rest. It's supposed to be like your private sanctuary. And if that's cluttered,
that's what I need to do today.
Believe me, you guys, my side of the bedroom is a disaster. And my husband's side, Michael's side, is like spotless. Military, pristine, not my side. You can tell whose side is what. But if your bedroom is cluttered, then it makes it harder for you to rest. It makes it harder for you to do other things because you're thinking of the clutter. So starting with just one little thing, like I said, whether it's your purse, your gear bag, whatever it is, and just do one little thing a day. You don't put the stress on yourself because that's not practicing self-care. If you put your stress on yourself to do everything at once, just start with, I'm going to declutter this bookshelf today, and kind of go from there because it really does. Tara, what do you want to say?
Thank you for noticing, because I did not want to interrupt you. So there's this book that started the process of me changing my life from being someone who had a bunch of stuff that I didn't need and being not organized in terms of my surroundings. I was organized in terms of my schoolwork, but I wasn't, everything looked like a disaster. It looked like a bomb went off in my room and on my desk. I mean, I don't even know how I got anything done there. But this book, it's called One Small Step. I do not remember the name of the author.
I've heard of this book.
It's such a great read.
That's what they say. I have to get this.
It's fantastic. It's an easy read. It's not too long. And the general basis, without totally, I mean, one small step, it's in the name, so I can't really spoil it. But the concept is that even something like if I have my whole desk and I want to clean the whole desk, that might be too much to take on at one time. So the act of just putting one paper clip away, one small step, because oftentimes what happens is you put that one paper clip away and you're like, oh, well, that was easy enough. Maybe I'll just put another paper clip away. And then it kind of starts snowballing. And before you know it, you've got half of your desk cleaned off. And maybe that's enough for the day. Maybe the one paper clip is enough for the day. But that book is so good. I definitely recommend it.
I've definitely learned about myself that, like, if I'm struggling with something, I just need to get the ball rolling a little bit, and then everything else is a lot easier. Most of the struggle is like in my mind. So cleaning and organizing, definitely not my strong suits. But if I just put the paper clip away, or just like wash one plate, or just take the dishes off of my desk and put them away where they go, that starts a domino effect, and it makes it much easier for me to get things done because I'm also being rewarded immediately as I'm doing these things. I'm like, oh, hell yeah, it feels good in here. Look at this. Oh,
yes.
So that's really cool.
And Stasia, if you can find the link for that book and throw it up in the chat, that would be amazing. I think that would be helpful to a lot of people. It is. And I think the other thing too is self-care is about not stressing yourself out. So, how can you do this without bringing on additional stress to yourself, and I think that's a really important thing. Rome wasn't built in a day. You can't eat an elephant all at once. Like, all of those things really do start small, because like Spanx was saying, when I was learning to play guitar, that's what they said, practice for 5 minutes. Just 5 minutes a day is all you've got to do. Well, you get in and you get going, 5 minutes, you're doing your scales. And the next thing you know, you're like really having fun. And then you've been at it for an hour. but that's not what your plan was going in. And I think that that's a really good, important point. I think that's all I had. Yeah, we talked about forgiveness. Stretching it out is a really good thing. So that's all I had as far as like my research. So, so what do you guys think about that? Like, what do you struggle with when it comes to self-care? You know, I know for me, for a long time, I thought self-care was all about going and buying something for myself to make myself feel good, or going and buying a coffee, or going to lunch with friends. And that costs money. And maybe you don't have the means to do that, right? So I think it's important to realize that part of self-care is also being within that budget. Y'all, I struggle with that. I'm not joking. It's a struggle for me. But you know, what does self-care look like for you guys? What do you struggle with? Like, what are your thoughts? I kind of talked enough.
I think consistency for me is number one thing that I struggle with. I know that routines benefit me largely, the structure of it all, but I also like really like to feel free and not confined. So like I continually try to like structure things in a way that feel new but are the same, if that makes sense, because that's how I succeed. So I struggle with like I can get a bunch of stuff working out, but then I'll drop some balls, you know, like now the kitchen's dirty, but you know, I did stretching and exercise and I got good sleep and nutrition, you know, or you know, there's always one ball in the juggle that is struggling to stay in the air, I feel like. So I'm always constantly working on consistency, and I'm trying to come up with ways to make that easier. I'm not just, you know, beating my head on the wall over and over, you know, trying the same thing over and over. I'm definitely trying to shift stuff. And sometimes it just takes a little start. You know, every step of the way is a step in the right direction. So it's not like I'm wasting my time or spinning my wheels either, but I'm constantly reaching for some sort of consistency, because I imagine if I had found consistency years ago, I would be the president of the world or something like that. I could have made so much progress. So I'm just fighting to apply myself properly.
Yeah.
Do you think? Oh, I'm sorry. Do you?
One at a time now.
When you're like going back to the, you know, you had good sleep and nutrition and everything, but like the kitchen's dirty. Do you see the benefit in focusing on the good thing that happened, like, or do you find that you focus more on the kitchen's dirty instead of I did all of these other things?
My natural reaction is to like beat myself up for the thing I missed, right? And to like really like harp on that, but that's not productive. It's important and necessary that I accept and like acknowledge that I missed something on my list, right? And one way to do that is to make a list and then cross things off, and then things that aren't crossed off, right? It's important that I acknowledge that it happened, but it's not important that I spend any more time on it than that, because I did succeed in 5 areas and I failed in 1. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
We can't be perfect. And if you're like me, you definitely have superpower to beat yourself up and be really hard on yourself with your self-talks. So knowing that, I try to shift things around to compensate, right? And then eventually I myself shift to meet the world or whatever that I've created. So if that makes sense, that might have been a little trippy, but
no, it makes perfect sense. And I'm glad that that's how you see that. I was hoping you would see it that way. Terry, you look like you had wanted to say something.
I was just going to crack a joke that they were going to create a completely new president position just for Spanx. It's president of the entire world. That's pretty impressive.
That is.
I don't think I want the responsibility.
So do you think this is self-care? So I like my coffee to be hot the entire time that I drink it. And so I put it in this handy dandy Yeti. I wish I'm not, you know, not sponsored, don't work with them. Would love to, but love my Yeti. And it keeps it nice and hot. And so I was just thinking here to myself, like, you know, I've had so many cups of cold coffee before, and it's just not right.
You don't have to settle. That is self-care, in my opinion.
Right. Okay. So that's self-care.
Yeah.
So it can be the little things too. I'm like, all right, if forgiveness falls into the self-care category, then hot coffee must fall into the self-care category too.
I feel like it's easy to confuse it because like there's the physical self-care, like I'm brushing my teeth, I'm taking a shower, I'm clipping my nails, I'm eating and I'm sleeping, but there's also spiritual self-care, like what you do to serve your soul, doing service work, whatever you're doing in your free time, that time that you carve out for yourself for whatever it is, whether you're staring at the wall, whether you're, I don't know, whatever you're into, but that stuff is self-care. When I go to a metal show, that's self-care in a way, especially if I'm lacking social activity. Like I need that to thrive. I also need my alone time. There's a billion things that go into self-care, and it's all unique to each individual person. So, accept yourself, right?
And I think, Spanx, that is a beautiful point. And that's you. Okay, we can quit now. You just summed up everything I wanted to get to.
No. See, that's one of my, I feel like my weakness is I'll get it all out there. And then it's like, wait a second. Now what do we say? But we can extrapolate and it's great.
No, you're good. But that's exactly the point that I wanted to get is that, there's so many ways that self-care, not only is it about decluttering your home but it is those little things. If you are needing connection, going to a metal show, going to the gym, going to the farmer's market, if you're me, going to, Ulta for the eyelashes. I could use a sponsor for that. Hey. Those are important things too. For me, a big part of self-care, and I really struggled with this for a long time, is actually like putting on my eyelashes and doing my eyebrows and doing my hair.
Your
and
eyelashes look great, by the way.
They do.
Thank you. Even though there's 2 left eyelashes that I had to trim down. If you guys have not seen that short,
yeah.
Well, it's because I'm doing this hair thing.
Okay, I see
no, I mean
doing.
you really can't tell from here, but if you were close to me, you could.
You look beautiful, as always.
Oh, well, thank you. And until I was on the phone with Stacey the other day, I took my eyelashes off and she's like, oh, that's a difference. Because it really is quite a difference. But, that's part of my self-care because, and I'll explain why, because for a long time I struggled with, is this vanity? Because growing up the way that I grew up, I grew up in a very religious home. And, we were taught not to be vain, right? Like the meek shall inherit the earth. Don't be vain. Don't, almost to a point, I took it to a self-deprecating point, where it was like, I'm not pretty at all. And I just would kind of shrink back and shrink away. And after the experience that I had with my ex, those 9 years, I didn't do anything for myself. You guys, I would go weeks without showering, without washing my hair, because I just could not bring myself to do it. And my kids who were at a pretty elite school. So I was picking up my kids and dropping them off at school with greasy, dirty hair and sweatpants. And all of these other moms were dressed to the nines. And you just knew I was struggling. You just knew it. And when I got out of that and I got past it, that was my self-care, because for so long I didn't take care of myself that now I found value in that. That made me feel good about myself. It made me feel positive. It changed my outlook. And I think that's what self-care is changing your outlook. It's making you see the world in a different way, making you see yourself in a different way, in a more positive light. And I've always struggled with it because I felt like it was a little bit of vanity. But and then there was this whole reversal of this no makeup natural look, but that's kind of not who I am at all. And so then I would feel guilty when people would appear just beautifully natural. I would be like, oh my gosh, and so then I would compare myself to them and I would feel bad about it. So I want to encourage you, if part of your self-care is putting on your eyelashes, or putting on your favorite shoes, or like I don't know what guys do. You know, I don't know. Trimming your mustache. I'm so sorry.
Trim the mustache for sure. Like
Yeah.
look at the teeth, make sure there's nothing stuck in there, you know, just the basics.
You know, I mean, but that's important too. And please don't let anybody make you feel bad about that, you know, because I allowed people to let me feel bad about that for a while, because it was kind of, I mean, you guys, I am kind of a little over the top and bougie, but it's okay. I own that now. Now I laugh at myself over it. But,
You want to hear
you
something
know,
crazy that you made me think of, Christy? Sorry, did I talk? I'm sorry.
No.
I
It's
asked if
my
you wanted to hear
earbuds.
something crazy you made me think of.
What? Yes.
You want to hear? Now I forgot because I screwed that up.
Oh no.
Oh, vanity. Vanity
Yes.
never made sense to me until I started learning how to self-care. I had to like take a little bit of pride and like want to look good a little and feel good a little to actually like understand that concept, which is interesting. Like it was just never something that like I was aware of it as a thing, but like for me, it never made sense, which is interesting, but it makes sense now.
Yeah, you know, and I think that there is something to that. You know, I think self-care looks different for everyone. Okay, I'm looking over here, Davey. Homely girls like myself need your expertise, Chrissy. You know what? I might do a getting ready with me. Well, not homely. But I might do a getting ready with me video, and you guys can watch me glue on my eyelashes, because that's a whole thing. Like, I'm not kidding. I talk about my lashes all the time, but when you guys see that, you'll be like, this makes sense. Carol, what about you? You've been kind of quiet over there. Oh, Spanx, go ahead.
Yes, because I am deeply uncomfortable with this conversation.
We actually spoke with Carol a little while you were gone, Christy. So we know why she's deeply uncomfortable. You don't know.
Okay.
I love your honesty, Carol. I just want to say that before you go. Yeah. I love your honesty.
Me too.
Oh, I don't mean to make you uncomfortable. I'm sorry. I never want to make you
but it's like, what even is that self-care? I hear it and it just kind of means very, very little, if anything, to me.
Oh, okay.
You know, but I realized, I had a realization yesterday, when my brother beat me up in 2018 in front of my 91-year-old mother. It broke my spirit. I did not that's 2018. That's 5-6 years ago. And it only took that long to recognize that that's what happened. I used to think, oh, surely you can't break someone's spirit unless they just let you, you know? And I found out somebody really can break your spirit.
Yeah, they really can.
You know, I was comfortable in my own skin. I worked very hard at getting that way, you know, putting 2,000 miles of distance between me and the person that abused me as a child, you know, and letting him back into my orbit because of our mother, and very trepidatiously, you know, and hoping that he would have enough respect for my husband to not do that, because he seemed to be very fond of him, you know, but none of that applied, you know, and yeah. So, you know, there's really not been a whole lot that I could do that makes me feel good. I'm slowly getting to the point of finding some road to comfort in my own skin, but I'm not there.
Right.
That's okay.
And
all we can do is our best.
And again, with the honesty, your openness to talk about something like this, Carol, I think is such a strength, and it's inspiring to me.
I agree. I was literally just thinking that as you were saying that.
Thank you.
If I can help in any way, let me know. If I can support you in any way, please let me know.
Yeah, same. Carol, you offer so much support to so many people. And I've heard you talk about this a few times before. I want to extend my same support, you know, whether it's with respect to this or anything else that you're going through. Like, I'm definitely with you and available for you.
Thank you. So yeah, that's all I got for self-care.
Well, I think you bring up a good point too, because, you know, hold on, guys. No.
I think that's a big step for self-care that you just took.
Yes.
Take this opportunity to say that.
I agree. Well, and you know, there's probably a lot more people out there in your position who just aren't saying anything, because what I know to be true is that when there's one or two people who express it outwardly, there's more people that are trying to kind of figure it out. And so, you know, I think what you just did was give everybody the permission to not be there yet. It's okay if you're not there yet, and you have to find it out. And people's spirits can absolutely be broken. And that is a hard, hard place to come back from. And, you know, there's no time frame on healing that. And there's no shame in not being there yet, because you're essentially having to figure out like who you are after this. Like, you were one person before it, this awful thing happened, and now you've got to put that back together and figure out who you are. And that's a whole process. And, you know, and I think you're doing a beautiful thing to just show people that you don't have to be there. Like, don't feel bad if you're not there. And I think that's, you know, Carol, I think you might have just made the most important point of the whole thing, is that if you're not there, it's okay. Like, this is what it looks like when you're not. This is how it feels. And, you know, like, that's why we talk about these things, you know? And I'm just so thankful that you came on and shared that, because I think it is a step in the right direction. And yeah, I mean, and I'm so sorry that happened to you. Like,
thank you.
I
am too.
I mean, I've heard that story before, and it just, every time it just breaks my heart.
Yeah,
it really does.
There was, you know, injustice just deeply bothers me.
Right.
And there was no justice in it whatsoever. It was a completely made up scenario in his mind, you know, and there was no interest in finding out if what he was thinking, or maybe he heard something in a rumor mill, was the truth. He just wanted to hurt somebody, and for whatever reason, he decided it had to be me that day. Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
And, thank you. And yeah, so, you know, there's not enough punishment that I could wield to make the justice be apparent, you know. And that for a long time, that's all I had, is just figuring, you know, watching, waiting patiently, looking for an opportunity to strike and make his life miserable.
You know, I have an interesting thought just now. The power of forgiveness, and how do you forgive someone that doesn't deserve it, and should you?
Yeah.
That just popped into my head. I've never considered that before.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a very real, it's a very real question. And I think that it's a personal thing for each person. You know, I have fortunately never been in that type of a situation, you know, where like Bridget is saying, injustice is soul crushing. I think truthfully, I think every person has to find their own answer, you know, and I don't think if it's right for you, then that's what you need to do. That's the right thing. It doesn't matter what I think, or Spanx, or Tara, or Carol, or anybody else thinks. And I think it's important to have permission to not forgive. Like, just because it worked for me, that's what it looked like for me. That doesn't mean that that's what it looks like for everybody, you know?
Sure.
And I think that's important. You know, everybody's journey is their own and it's different. And it might look similar. It's kind of like that saying, you know, we're all in the same storm. We just have different boats. I think that that is really true. You know, doesn't mean that one's better than another. It just means it looks different.
Yep. That's why they invented kayaks.
Hell yeah. That's what I'm talking about right there.
Right? And nuclear battleships.
Mm.
You know.
Thank you, Janet
Oh,
G.
wow.
I appreciate that so much.
So I went through a really similar battle with the whole forgiveness thing. 3 years ago, this is actually what catapulted me into recovery. And I don't talk about this very often, but I was exploited for labor. That's a subtype of human trafficking.
Yes, it is.
I did some
Yeah.
work for somebody and they never paid me for it. And it put me in a really bad situation. I was living in my car, someone started following me and I didn't have money to run away from them. I reported it to the police and they told me I needed to get out of the area, that they couldn't stop this person from going into public spaces where I was existing because I was living in my car. And so they told me to get out of the area and I didn't have any money to get out of the area because this person hadn't paid me. It was a very, very horrible, dangerous, scary situation. This was 3 years ago. And when I finally got to the safe house and got into recovery, I was at an AA meeting actually, and I led this meeting and the topic was on forgiveness. And I shared with them, I don't know if I can forgive this person. Like they put me in a horrible situation. Yes, I made the choices that got me there. Like, yes, I allowed my bank account to dwindle down so that when this person didn't pay me, I was screwed essentially.
Yeah.
But it did catapult me into this recovery journey that I'm in. Because I had to be clean and sober to live.
God for that.
Right. There is a huge pro. Like I'm still living out the recovery piece of it.
Mhm.
So, which I wouldn't have never guessed. But the point that I'm trying to make before I get too far off track here is that in that AA meeting, I remember leading the group or that meeting on forgiveness, and that I was so confused as to whether or not I could forgive this person because my life felt ruined. It was upside down. I felt trapped. I felt hopeless. You know, I was not getting proper treatment for my mental health at this time. It was the beginning of my recovery journey.
Yeah.
And so I remember the consensus of the group was that, and this was based on, you know, the big book, which is based on the Bible and these people's experiences. So it's like, take it for a grain of salt. This is what the group came up with. But it helped me in that moment on that day.
Yeah.
That forgiveness is separate from forgetting. And to forgive is for me. It's not for the other person. And I know this is nothing new. I'm not telling you anything new. But it was a good reminder for me that forgiveness, unforgiveness, the resentment would eat me up and potentially cause me to make bad decisions for my own mental health, my own self-care. Yeah. And so to forgive is very different from forgetting. And I'm never to forget, you know, I'm never to get involved with this person again.
Sure.
But I do forgive him, and it's a process. You know, it's like sometimes something will come up, I'll get triggered and I'll get so angry. Yeah. And then I'm like, wait a minute, it's not worth it. Like, I don't want to hold that feeling. It's not worth it to me. I want to feel good. And so it's like, for me anyways, it's a process. It's not a linear thing. Just like I think self-care is not a linear thing. We ebb and flow, and sometimes we hit it out of the park, and sometimes we might fall a little short. But that self-awareness and having a good community of people to support us and taking care of ourselves, just like having a good community of people to help us through the forgiveness process, if that's what we choose, is really important in my opinion.
Right on.
Yeah. I just kind of wanted to, I can't say too much about my current situation, but like Tara, I kind of got thrown into sobriety I think, Spanx, you were talking about that window last night, that window of opportunity. And I found that window and I jumped through it for the first couple of substances, or the first couple of groups of substances. And then I'm currently in a women's shelter. So once I left and went to the women's shelter, that's when I dropped my last substance. Forgiveness, that's where I wanted to go. Sorry. I can forgive myself. I don't think I can ever forgive the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And the forgiveness has to be somewhere. I've learned it has to be somewhere. But
Right.
I can't remember who had said earlier, if we have to forgive. I don't think, and every ounce of my being tells me I don't have to forgive that person.
Mm-hmm.
But I have to forgive me.
I was about to
I
say
made
that if you
mistakes
didn't.
too. I made decisions. I was addicted through that. I need to be able to forgive me, and being able to do that. I understand I'll never have that, like Carol was saying before, I'll never have that same person back. I'm a different person now.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm happy to build that person. And the only way I could have done that, start building that, is through forgiving myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay to make mistakes. We're all going to do it. It's inevitable. And we all probably have done it already, you know? So you got to move forward.
Yeah.
But I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that, like, there's 5 different opinions on the screen. And my personal opinion is you don't have to forgive that person, but you do have to forgive yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And I agree with Stasia. There are 5 very different opinions, and I think what's most important is that you find what works for you, what feels right for you, and what helps you in your healing and your self-care and your journey. And who are we to judge how you manage that? As long as you're managing it in a healthy way, then it doesn't what's most important is that it works for you, and it helps you to move forward. And I think Stasia had a very good point. And I don't know who it was, but someone said, I agree with Stasia about self-forgiveness. That's really important. That's a huge first step.
It's a big, big, big one.
Yeah.
I feel like, Stasia, you got that way before me, because I had to forgive. Well, my process was that I forgave everyone else before I even realized I needed to forgive myself. And then
it didn't even occur to me.
I got super hung up on it. I had to have somebody point it out to me, as a matter of fact.
Me too. My dad actually
These
pointed that
two
out.
ladies were the ones who helped me figure that one out, and really early in my process of forgiving myself and in my recovery. And I couldn't be more grateful. I couldn't be more grateful, because if I didn't figure that out as early as I did, I probably would still be feeling stuck. I don't feel stuck anymore. I don't. And yes, the situation isn't great right now, and I have a lot to figure out and a lot to still do, but I don't feel stuck anymore. So thank you, Carol. Thank you, Christy.
Oh, well, you're so welcome.
Thank you, Stasia. You did, you made a decision that put you on this road, and that was a big, big, big step.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's important.
It's all a journey.
Well, and this is why I love doing panels like this, is because there's so many different points of view, so many different ways people got to where they are, that, not everybody is going to vibe with how I did it or Carol did it, but, you'll find somebody that you vibe with and you can relate with. And this is all part of self-care, is part of recovery. It's part of, when you're taking good care of yourself, it helps you to not relapse. I know my relapse came when I was not taking good care of myself. Like, it all just sort of stopped. And and then you kind of get this, oh, I can manage it. And, and you kind of slip back into this survival mode, but it's very, very slow. And I remember, I was talking to Tommy about it, and I'm like, wow, this just kind of sneaks up on you. And he's like, yeah, no, it doesn't, chick. No, it doesn't sneak up on you. I think he called me woman. No, it doesn't, woman. But, but that made me stop and think, because to me, it felt like it snuck up on me. But then when I went back and looked, it didn't sneak up on me, and and I think it's important, because when you stop taking care of yourself, that's really when you can really slip. I mean, among other things. I'm not saying it's just that, but for me, it's what sent me down a really nasty, nasty, nasty rabbit hole.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it really did.
Christy, how did you, once you descended into the rabbit hole, the pit of despair, what was your process like for getting out of that?
So I'll tell you, I haven't shared this part of it before. So you might have to give me a minute. My ex was cheating on me with his secretary, who was 10 years younger than me and had a child. And I was told that she was more attractive because I had 3 kids, 2 of which was his. So there was a point where I didn't know what to do. I hadn't spoken to my family in like 8 years because I was isolated. I went from having a really good job to working at Taco Bell at night, washing dishes, making $9 an hour. And there was a moment where I was sitting on the couch, and he was sitting over here and I was sitting over here, and he looked at me and he said, and it's really important, in my family, there's only 2 people that are divorced. Of all my aunts, uncles, grandparents, both sides, there's just 2. My one uncle and myself. So at the time, there was 1 person in my whole family that was divorced. So I had put on myself that divorce was not an option, and I was just going to stick it through, come hell or high water, right? And so he asked me if I loved him and if I wanted a divorce. And you can call it God, you can call it...
In the same sentence?
Yeah, he goes, do you still love me? Do you want a divorce? And he was very serious, like he was very emotional about it. And you can call it God, universe, spirit, Buddha, Zeus, however your higher power looks for you, said to me, if you don't leave now, I can hear, it was just like somebody talking in my ear. If you don't leave now, you're going to die here. And you're not going to die here when you're 90 years old and you're on a rocking chair on the front porch watching your grandkids play. Like, you're going to die soon. And that was the first time in my life I ever heard that, felt that. And I looked at him and I said, no, I don't. And yes, I do. And as soon as I said that, this weight lifted off of me. And that was in September. So we had my oldest daughter's birthday coming up, and then we had Thanksgiving and Christmas, New Year's. So I actually, the divorce, and I didn't actually leave until March. So I spent that whole time in the house. Now he moved downstairs. The process for me was that moment right there of realizing that I was in a situation that was literally going to kill me. Like, I had tried to unalive myself, but literally it was going to kill me. It wasn't going to be like me unaliving myself. It was going to be the anorexia, the stress, it was just going to be like, I knew my body was just going to quit. About a couple of months after everything was final. I was in my own apartment for the first time ever in my life. I had never lived on my own. I had never had to make my own income. I had never had to pay my own bills. I had never had to do any of that. So this was like first. I found out that my dad had cancer, and it ended up being really bad. And I quit my job. My brother quit his job. We moved home to help my mom take care of my dad. And during that time, I found an amazing therapist. My mom is a nurse. I was on 2,000 millicoat. I was on risperidol. I don't remember what the other thing was I was on, but some other like a
Was it
Valium type
clonidine,
thing.
was it?
It
That
could
sounds
have
like the
been.
spread they had me on.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty intense to the point that my mom was like, "This is how are you functioning?" Like that was literally the question I was asked by my mom and my doctor. Like, how do you function? Because I was not bipolar. Like everything I was going through truly was situational. And so between having a really amazing family and having to care for somebody else, because my dad was dying, like we knew my dad wasn't going to survive that. That helped me. I had an amazing therapist, and oddly enough, I had paid for really expensive therapists, like the best, and this therapist was like a state therapist. Like I had gotten it because I was on Medicaid. Because I was on Medicaid, and so it was like state sponsored, and it was just a realization that I was at a point where I was going to die, and I had to do something. And so when they say like fight, flight, freeze, all of those things, I fight. I absolutely fight. I fight hard. And I want to say to everybody out there, whew, I never, even though I have forgiven him. Oh, you guys, I did not plan on this. Whew, good thing I got some heavy duty eyelash glue.
You got this.
Even though I have forgiven him, I have not forgotten what he did. And it still lives in my body. So one of the big things for me was money. There was a lot of financial abuse. I was not allowed to have any money. And yes, I'm okay, baby. Thank you. Mikey, he's very like he knows when I'm upset, so he wants to come love on me. But what I wanted to say was the struggle that I have around money, I'm never going to not have. Actually, just the other night, Michael and I got into a huge fight because he just wanted to know how much money I had spent, which is a very fair question. I mean, that's legitimate. And you guys, I lost my ever loving shit. Like I went off on him, started screaming, started yelling. Oh, they're both looking at me. All right, you guys are amazing and beautiful and I love you, but Mama doesn't need all of the kisses right now. Thank you. Thank you. I'm so lucky to have you. Yes, you guys had a good. I lost it. I started screaming. I started yelling. And I was just thrown instantly right back into that. Like I felt like I was being questioned and grilled, and I wasn't. Okay, like my husband was just like, "How much did you spend today?" Very innocent. So I want to say too that you can forgive yourself. You can forgive the other person. But that still lives in your body, and you might not be able to get past some of that. You might always have that residual trauma, and I do. It's not ever going to go away. It's just not. It's going to come up, and the thing is, again, going back to my husband and I putting ourselves in check, he's like, I'm not him. And I knew it, but in that moment, it's like, but you're doing the same thing, so you are. And that's not it. He wasn't even doing the same thing. So I want to encourage you too that, some things that are really traumatic, you will continue to struggle with. Like some things just cut so deep that you don't ever get past it. You just don't. So don't beat yourself up about that either, because you guys might have some trauma out there that you could have the most amazing, wonderful, perfect person in the world for you, which I do. Caring, understanding, compassionate. He really does not give two craps about how much money I spend, truthfully. It's me that makes it the problem, but it's my trauma that makes it the problem. So, I just want to give encouragement to people too, because I don't look like my experiences. You would never know I've been through some of the stuff I've been through.
True.
But be gentle with yourself, because some trauma just doesn't go away. You manage it from day to day, but it always pops up.
Every time it comes back, it's like a friend that you know a little better.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like a house guest that you just want to leave, and you're like, oh, it's you again.
Totally. Absolutely, way better metaphor.
Like, could you just not show up today? And but so like everybody out there, I just want to encourage that, like, you're not ever going to be completely fixed. Like, I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean you're always going to have dirt on your soul, to quote Cynthia. You're always going to be a little dirty. You're always going to have something that's stuck to you and that just doesn't leave. But I will say this. Part of what helped me to get to where I'm at, once I realized how awful a situation I was in, and that version of Christy, guys, I'm so sorry. She died this really wretched death, right? So that I could be who I am today. So I literally had a funeral for that version of her, because she's not ever coming back. So I had my own little funeral, and I buried her, right? Because that ended. And then I got handed a blank piece of paper and a pen, and I got to pick who I wanted to be. And I got to figure out what was important to me, and I got to reevaluate my core beliefs, and I got to reevaluate my internal tapes and all of those things. And I got to pick who I was going to be. And this is who I picked. Now, some things I drug along with me, because you just can't, you can't undo it. Like, it just doesn't matter what you do. You just can't undo it. But I promised myself that I wasn't going to let anyone else do that to me again. And that's why I didn't take alimony. That's why I didn't take child support, was because there was no way in hell I was ever going to let that man say that I had something because he gave it to me. No, piss off. I got it on my own. And that's that fight in me. Like, you controlled X amount of years in my life, but that's all you get to control. The rest of it is mine. Well, I'm just stubborn.
Me too. I can relate. I can definitely relate with those sentiments. Like, never again.
Right? Exactly. Exactly. Like, you got 9 years, dude. Enjoy them.
Yeah.
I hope they were worth it.
Yeah.
And
thanks for sharing that.
You're welcome. I mean, I try to keep it into perspective of how I share that, because it can really seem overwhelming, and it can really seem like a lot, and it can seem like I don't like him. I have just been able to realize, like, look, we were both toxic to each other, and I hope that there's somebody out there for him. He hasn't found her yet, but I hope he does, or I just hope he has a good life. Because how can I have a good life? How can I expect to have a good life and be blessed and abundant when I'm wanting ill will for someone else? And that's how I see it. Now, that doesn't mean that's right for everybody, but that's how I see it. Like, if you can't do both. So I just choose. Some days it's really hard. Some days it's really hard. but it's getting easier. It's getting easier. So,
Right on.
yeah. Life's good. Stubbornness can be self-care when done right. Oh yeah, well, that was a lot of self-care.
Love that.
That's, I am that, if I doubt he'd ever come on the channel, but if I ever did get to interview my husband, he would be like, yeah, she's, but.
Get some turkey legs for that episode.
Yeah, and cheese.
Yeah.
And a block of cheese. When is your birthday, Christy?
February 12th. I'm an Aquarius, so I am a fixed air sign. I'm very swordsy. but my moon is a Cancer, so I've got that kind of balanced. I actually have a very balanced astrology chart, believe it or not. When I got it done by my friend, she's like, you have the most balanced chart I've ever seen. And I'm like, well, wait until I get mad and then tell me how balanced I am.
Yeah, I don't know what that would be like. I have to work really hard to achieve balance. And even then, I don't know that I ever have achieved it.
Yeah, I hear that.
Right.
Me too.
Right. Well,
Me
and
too.
it's, let's see, what's been saying, forgiveness is wishing someone the best despite what they did to you.
The best despite what they did to you.
Yeah. And not everybody gets there, and it's okay. Look, hey, sweetie. She's pawing at me.
Hey, I might need to bow out, guys. I hope that's all right.
Yes,
It's
thank
coming
you
up on
so
nap
much.
time if I want to do these stuffs later.
Yes, well, again, learning when to bow out and take care of yourself. That's awesome.
Yeah, good self-care, Spanx.
Heck yeah.
Yes.
This has been so great. I'm so glad I came to this. Like every time I psych myself out and I almost convince myself to bail last minute, but I didn't. I made it here and I'm better for it immediately. As soon as
Amazing.
I turned my music down, everything was better. So.
Well, I'm so glad that you're here. I mean, you guys all bring so much, and I love that you each bring different perspectives, which is really, really valuable and important. But yes, Spanx, bow out. Go take your little siesta. Thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Let's please do this again.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Anytime.
Yes, we will. We
all right.
will.
Love you guys. Bye.
See ya.
There you go.
So I didn't mean to make that last part so much about me.
But I think that you're a really great example. I can relate with a lot of what you had said. And, I at the same time, I can say, maybe down the line I'll be able to forgive him, but I'm not there yet. I might get to the point where you're at, but right now I'm not there. Yeah. And that's okay. But it's also the viewpoint of you saying, I don't want anything bad. Maybe he'll find somebody in time. Like, I want to be there. I don't want ill will. It doesn't feel good on the inside. I'm still so fresh. I'm still a baby. You're talking about that blank sheet of paper that you got. I just got handed that blank sheet. So maybe my views will change, but right now that's just kind of where I'm at. And I don't apologize for explaining your story because I don't think you realize how much your story is actually able to help people.
Mm-hmm. Well, I am thankful because when I was going through it, I didn't think it would ever help anybody. I didn't think I would ever get out of it. I didn't think I would ever fix it. And it was it was a lot. And if you really think about it, I mean, it was about 6 months of therapy once I got to the state side of it, but it was 2 years before that. So, there's, there's that. And again, I think everyone has to do, part of self-care is doing what is right for you, and what that looks like, and feeling good. I think self-care is just feeling good in your own skin, feeling good with who you are and where you're at in that moment, and being the best version of yourself you can be. And I think self-care helps us get there. You know, I really do. You know, oh, I feel pretty. Oh, so pretty.
Hold on.
That's a song.
Wait, what?
That's a song. I feel pretty.
Oh, okay.
Feel so pretty.
I didn't know who it was, and I was like, "Yay, you for feeling pretty." Is that
It's
Ben?
St. Ben Bacon Bits.
I'm so glad you feel pretty, Ben. Like, I'm so glad. Oh, my nose is starting to run. Hold on. You guys, straighten up.
That's like Ben's song of the week, because I think he was singing that yesterday too. He's got it stuck in his head.
Right? Well, I think that was a good chat. I mean, I wasn't sure which direction this was going to go or how it worked. Do you guys have anything you want to add or any questions or anything like that? I mean, it's kind of ended up being a little bit more about forgiveness than I had. I mean, I just kind of thought it would be like
forgiveness is an aspect of self-care, though.
Yeah.
Because once I was able to forgive myself, I was able to open up space to do things. So originally for me, it was crochet. That was the thing that I was doing to keep me, well, technically needing a meeting. That was like my 1 to 2 hours a day where I was like, nope, this is my time. This is what I'm enjoying. And then I brought crochet into it also. And then I keep finding the next creative outlet. Like that's my self-care. But I couldn't start that until I forgave myself. So I think that it's an important piece of self-care.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very good.
I think that something we didn't talk about, but that I'm very passionate about, is that self-care. Well, we did talk about that it looks differently for everybody. Mm-hmm. What I want to add, though, is that I think doing something that brings us joy, doing something that brings me joy, is probably the most powerful thing that I can do for myself, because sometimes that's not, it doesn't look like, if you look up an article about self-care or, what works for other people, there's not going to be anything on that list that's like, go get on your surfboard and hop in the water.
Right.
Like that's not going to be on any self right now. Yeah. And I think doing small things, like there was a conversation yesterday on Carol's channel about someone who loves, she endearingly calls it fabric fondling. And I think for her, fabric, I mean, for me, that wouldn't work, right? Like, I mean, I love touching my soft pillows and I enjoy feeling textures of fabric and stuff, but not to the degree that she talks about loving it. And so for her, I think that's the best thing immediately that she could do for self-care is go and fondle that fabric. Like for me today, I think the best thing I could have done was go to that restorative yoga class, because my original plan of strength training, it just wasn't quite right. And it allowed me to be here because it was 2 hours earlier than the strength training class. That would have been right during this time. So it ended up working out that I could be here, and I'm so glad I was. The point I want to make, I think, is sometimes self-care is just doing the next thing that's going to bring me joy.
Yes. Yeah. I agree. I love that. I love that. I think that's important.
And I don't think it has to be something big, like a cup of coffee. Like we were just talking about that, or whatever it is, insert thing here. If it lights you up, if it, like for me, I'm not great at this. I'm trying, because I think a big reason, it's like I feel because my life isn't exactly the way that I want it to be, that I don't have permission. I don't give myself permission to do the next thing that's going to make me happy. But nobody else is going to give me permission to hop back on my surfboard. That's something that I have to figure out and do for myself and get to. But I do remember that it just was like I lived to surf when I was living in my car. That's like I lived for it. That's all I wanted to do ever. That's all I cared about. And so I think getting back to a place which I feel like I'm on my way. Like I just got that job and things are starting to fall into place where I don't have to stress out about things. And I'm like, okay, I think I'm to a place where I believe I deserve to have fun and experience joy and get the most out of life.
Yeah.
I don't think it needed to take me 3 years to get here, but for whatever reason it did. And now I'm thankful that I've got to a place where I'm like, you know, I deserve all of the things that I want. I have permission. I'm allowed to enjoy life.
Yeah.
And can I say, you know, I'm in a spiritual community, you know, like that's just where my belief system lies. And I've had people tell me before, I give you permission to blah, blah, blah. And you know what? It almost made me mad. I'm like, who are you to give me permission? You know, like, I think that people need encouragement. And I know I've kind of said that before, like, oh, maybe this person just needs permission to do this. But I'm not your mom, you know? And I think that that's another thing too, is just being able to give yourself that permission to feel safe in yourself, you know? And I think safety can look a lot of ways. It can look healthy and it can be unhealthy, you know? It can be like Linus from the Peanuts guy. Is he the one that always carries the blanket that's like a little dirty, you know, everything? Yeah. Like, okay, that's kind of a little unhealthy, right? Like, okay, maybe wash the blanket, you know, but, you know, in a healthy way, right? Like, give yourself permission to be healthy and to do that, but you have to do it within yourself. No one can do it for you. That's the one thing that, you know, it's important that you can find it in yourself to give you that, to give yourself permission. But I don't think it's anything like anybody else can give you, because if you
Speaking
come
of
up to me,
giving permission, I need to duck out, you guys.
yeah, yeah, have a
Love you,
good one.
Carol.
Thank you for being on.
Bye.
Bye.
There we go.
Awesome. Well, this has been so much fun. I love these organic conversations because sometimes they take a direction that you didn't expect. I didn't expect this conversation to go in this direction today, but it needed to, and it was healthy and healing. And I think that that's, you know, that's beautiful. And I want to thank you guys for taking me down this road that I didn't know I needed to go down.
Thanks for bringing us.
Go ahead, Stacia.
I was just saying, thanks for bringing us along.
Yeah, totally. Definitely.
Yeah.
And thanks for sharing all of that. I know it's sometimes when we're put on the spot, it's like I find myself sharing more than I've ever shared before when people ask questions. And I think it does take a certain level of bravery to share and courage to share the type of thing that you shared for the first time on a public platform. So hats off to you. And thanks for inviting me. It's always a pleasure.
Oh yeah, no, well, and you know, I like it when people ask questions because you never know what someone needs to hear. Like I don't think anything is ever an accident, you know, like questions get asked, you know, thoughts come in, things are said because somebody out there needs to hear it or understand it and know it. And, you know, so I think it's always beautiful. So I think that's great. Well, you guys, we're almost an hour and a half in. It's almost 2:30. Needing a meeting is going to start soon. So since you guys are left, let's do final thoughts with both of you. What are some final thoughts for today? Like words of encouragement, words of wisdom. What'd you learn? Just a final thought. And you guys can go whatever order you want.
I think meditation works for me. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody likes tea even, but that we didn't talk about meditation at all. Or maybe Christy, you mentioned it when you were doing your intro. meditation for me is a really important part of my self-care routine, and it helps me tap into what the next thing is that's going to bring me joy. Because it clears out a lot of noise. And then throughout the day, I find that, okay, I'm more in tune with my own inner guidance and what's going to work for me. Even if I don't know that it's going to work or not, it's like, all right, it's time to go to the bank. And that's like probably the best time I could have gone to the bank. And it was an enjoyable experience, and the teller was really nice, and they offered me coffee, and I love it when people offer me tea or coffee. Right. And so I think for me, I would add, meditation works really well to get me to a point where I can do the next thing that brings me joy. I think personally that's what it's all about. So if I could offer a last thought, it would be a challenge to do whatever you need to do to get to a place where you're in tune with what joy looks like for you. Only because that works for me. I'm not trying to tell anybody what to do. If you don't want to experience joy, then that's your jam, but my life is better when I focus on that.
Yeah. I agree. Stasia, what would you say?
My thoughts just kind of leading up to what Tara had said, because I'm still at the lead up part in my self-care. I'm still a baby. But just telling yourself that you are enough and that you are worthy of happiness and inner peace, because self-care brings those things to you.
And I don't normally share a final thought. I normally let my guests share, but I'm going to share a final thought today. And that is, don't be afraid to share your story. Don't be afraid to share what that looks like for you. And, self-care is something that's got to be specific to you. I think you can get a bunch of different ideas from everybody, but at the end of the day, I think you got to take what resonates and leave what doesn't. And it can look a lot of different ways. So awesome. Well, I think that's all I've got. If you two want to toggle off, stay on screen. Toggle off. Don't go anywhere. I'll say goodbye, and then we'll catch up in just a second. You guys, thank you so much for being here. I love these conversations when they're organic. I do try to kind of, stay within one way, but I think the reason I probably had technical difficulties, other than it still being Mercury retrograde, was probably because it needed to be steered in a way that I wasn't going to steer it. And the universe is like, nope, not today, little one. We're taking it the way it needs to go. I appreciate each and every one of you being here. Thank you so much. Please make sure to check out all of the Ripples channels. I think we put up Tara's channel. She's Tara Smiling. Don't forget, Needing a Meeting goes live Monday through Friday at 3:40 Central Time. And The Boat is going live, I think, still at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. Pacific Time. And I'm just kind of, like whenever you can catch me. I do try to put up things that are coming up on my channel so that you can kind of see what I've got coming up. So if you have not subscribed to the channel but you like the comment, please subscribe. And that way, you know what's coming up. So I said, I don't know how I'm still here. Do you have a channel, or are you on the lifeboat? I don't know how I'm still here. Are you new to the lifeboat, or do you have a separate channel? I have a separate channel. So my channel is called Conversations with Christy. And you can, I'll have Stasia put that link up in the comments afterwards. So yeah. I do have my own channel. So if you got here through the boat, I'm so thankful that you're here. Please, like I said, follow the link, hop over it, see what's on my channel that you might like. I would love for you all to come back. In the meantime, stay safe, take care. You guys have a great day. Bye.